Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be my January morning T&C, and I'm going to kind of change it up a little bit. There's going to be some things that I'm going to do a little bit different. Instead of highlighting the decks that I have purchased or that I have come into my collection, I'm going to start talking about the decks that I'm working with. This is simply because to try to stay within season, because like right now, obviously I'm looking at spring decks and I'm looking at different things. So if I bring them in and, start to work with them and stuff like that, and then I start showing all my spring decks in January, like it kind of doesn't go with the flow, right? So I've decided to kind of start talking more about the decks that I'm actually working with and the things that I am doing in the months instead of, like I said, highlighting the things that I've purchased. Some of these decks might be a little repetitive because I just talked about them or just, talked about how they came in. But these are decks that I've been working with for all of the month of January. And we're right at the end right now. So I figured it's the perfect time to kind of talk about what I've been doing in my world of tarot and the things that have been happening. I'm finally gotten to the quiet part of my January. If you watched in my previous videos, you'll know that I talked about how I was quite booked for most of January. I've Today is the first day that it's kind of simmered down a little bit and it's gotten quiet. And from this part forward till probably about end of March, it tends to be quiet. So I'm kind of expecting it to be quiet. And it's kind of like a not announced slow period, right? Like I don't purposely go on and say on my Instagram or on my stuff and say, okay, like I'm taking my time out, like it's now quiet time. Like if people want to book, they can book, obviously, right? But just going with the natural flow of my business in the way that the previous years have been, this is notoriously a very quiet time for all small businesses and retail for the most part. And I kind of look forward to this period as a nice quiet time to just dive in deep into like my practice and the things that I do and to learn different things and to read books and to educate myself and expand my horizons. So I'm very, very excited that I'm at that point in the year. Um, you'll have to excuse my hands. There's cuts and everything all over them, and it's because it is so dry in here that my hands are just splitting and cracking. All my nails have busted. It doesn't matter how much lotion I put on or how many humidifiers I run. This is a very big old building. For those of you who don't know from watching previous videos, I live in a 120-year-old plus decommissioned church that is full of wood, and it is so dry in here. I swear to God, I could preserve people and make mummies. It is just ridiculously dry in here. So my hands are in shambles. My hair's not looking so hot either. It's very dry, and I'm constantly battling, trying to keep it moisturized. So tis the winter season, right? The furnace is running. It doesn't matter how much water I boil or how many humidifiers I run. It's just an issue. My cats have camped out around the humidifiers, and it helps their fur to not be staticky as well as for them to stay hydrated. So I have to start feeding wet food and make sure that they're okay and that they're hydrated because I believe today my percentage in here, humidity percentage, I believe is at 18%. And that's with two huge humidifiers running and everything. So it's kind of a battle that we've had here, and it's just because there's so much wood, right? It just absorbs all the moisture. So yeah, it's really, really dry in here. You might notice me kind of like making like noises with my mouth because I'm so dry. It doesn't matter how much I drink. It's like a permanent dry mouth situation. It's insane. But anyways, enough about all that crazy. Let's get into what we're here to talk about. So I started off January, and most people know this, working with the John Bower Tarot. Everybody knows this deck. Everybody's seen it. I like it. I'm glad I made it here. I went through hoops and loops to get it here because it was just an issue all the way around. Thank you, Mercury in retrograde, for that. But it's here. I've worked with it. I worked with it all month. I just put it away last night. There's the backs. I like it. I like a lot about it, but I didn't connect to it the same way I did the Edmund Dulac and the Rackham. Not really sure why. I do like the way that it reads. I like the illustrations. I like its energy. But there's a youthfulness to it that the other decks kind of don't have. And I found myself kind of having a hard time turning to it when like stuff went wrong and like not trusting it. That's not the right word. Just like when stuff got tough, it's kind of like I kind of didn't feel comfortable turning to it yet. And I don't really know why that is. I don't really have a reason for it. But I do like it. I'm glad that it's here. I've worked with it. I just didn't bond to it the way I did the other ones. So why that is, I'm not really sure. This is a really weird Eight of Cups image to me. And I think that's what it is. Some of the images, and I know that they're previous pieces of art and illustrations and whatnot, and they just kind of fitted them into the cards, and I get that. But most times they try to pick an image that resonates with the energy of the card, whereas this, I'm just kind of like, it's a weird image for an Eight of Cups. But like everybody's got their back turned to him, like I don't know. It's weird. I can kind of see it, right? I can kind of get the gist of it, but it's just such a strange Eight of Cups to me. But the most part, everything else was pretty straightforward. And I don't know. I have to maybe spend a little bit more time with it. I'm not really sure. I just didn't bond with it the way that I thought I would. Yeah, like, and I'm not going to go any further with it, but like, I do like it. I'm glad that it's here. I worked with it. I think it's a valuable asset to my collection. I plan on keeping it. It's not one of those situations where I'm like, me, I'm going to get rid of it. I don't feel that way at all. Um, but I just didn't bond with it the same way I did the others. So while I was working with the John Bower, the Golden Tarot showed up. This showed up just maybe within a couple days of the John Bower, because like I said in previous videos, the John Bower was actually ordered in December, but it didn't show up until like the very, very, very end of December, like almost January 1st kind of deal. And so I didn't really get the opportunity to start working with it until January. But I had ordered it at the very beginning of December. So this one then showed up on time. Now, the funny thing about this deck is it had been on my list a really, really long time. And I just kind of kept passing it. And then I heard about it having a linen edition. I was like, well, yeah, I want the linen edition. Like, I don't, like, I heard the cardstock of the other one was kind of thick and really glossy and all of that. And I didn't want that. I wanted the linen edition. So here's the backs. Beautiful. So I started hunting, and I hunted and hunted and hunted and looked for the linen edition. The thing, like, I love US Games, love US Games, an amazing company, love everything about them. But why they do not sell to Canada is beyond me. So I couldn't get it off the US Game site. and I searched high and low. I contacted them. They told me about specific retailers in the Canada area, like in my province, that might have it, and if they don't have it, they can order it for me. And I reached out to them, and none of them had them. None of them really seemed to be willing to order me in copy, like US Games seems to think that they were going to be, and they weren't. So I was kind of high and dry and couldn't get anything. Every internet posting I could find of this deck was very clearly the old edition. I searched and searched, and then finally I gave up. And I decided, you know what? I'm just going to buy the Amazon copy. I'm just going to get it. When the day comes that the linen edition finds its way to me, I will then at that time just move the older, glossier version on and, get the linen edition. So that was kind of like my idea of it. So I purchased the one that was on Amazon. Now the pictures were of the old deck. The write-ups were of the old deck. Everything was of the old deck. It gave no indication that it was the linen edition, but yet it's the linen edition that showed up. I was so ecstatic that it was insane. I was so pumped. So it moved right straight to my bedside, and I've been working with it ever since. I really, really like it. It's an amazing deck. I love her collage style. It's just great. I've really, really been enjoying my readings coming from it. I don't know if I got lucky. I don't know what the deal is, but I wanted it and I was hoping that's what I was going to get, and it's what I got. So yeah, I've been working a lot with it. I really enjoy, like I said, I really enjoy its language, and like it has a very mature approach to situations. Um, I don't know. I really like it. I've been really enjoying my work with it. The edging, the gold edging is a nice gold edging. It's not raised. There's no lip to it. It shuffles like butter. Really enjoy overhanding it. I haven't really riffled it yet. Let's see how that goes. It's kind of stiff, like it's hard to get that bend in it. I don't have that ability yet. My hands also have problems because of a job that I used to do a long time ago. My hands are not um there's not the strength in them that necessarily needs to be, and that's why I don't riffle very often. But I'm an overhander. I'll riffle to like really get things mixed up, but I seldomly bridge it, and I just like to overhand, and I just kind of spend time shuffling and working on what questions, what I'm looking at, what's coming forward. So great deck. Really enjoying my work with it. Really enjoying my time with it. I put the John Bower away, and it's just this one now that I've been really working heavily with. So the John Bower, like I said, went away last night or the day before, but even though it was next to my nightstand, I kind of wasn't turning to it maybe like the last week or so. And I've just been spending time with this one now. So I'm going to leave this one on my bedside for a while. I'm going to work with it, but I'm already feeling like the energy's changing, and I'm already starting to feel like a draw towards more of like my late winter, early spring decks, which is really weird because that usually typically doesn't come around for about another month. But I don't know. I've been feeling it. I think we're going to have an early spring. I might be wrong, but I'm feeling very drawn to my bright white, pastel-y color palettes right now. So I'm trying to stay in the January, uh, darker energy, but I'm starting to like navigate into the pastels. but I'm trying not to, but I'm fighting it. So the next thing that came in, and I'm going to talk about what I brought in, is I brought in the Wanderer's Tarot Guidebook. Now, the Wanderer Tarot, I don't know how people feel about it, but I love it. I find that it is a very dark goddess, very deep energy. I can get lost in these images very easily. I I put little stickers with the different suits of her thing because I always get them messed up. I always get the wands and the pentacles mixed up. You know, the crystals and the feathers, or she says stones and feathers. I always get them mixed up. So I put this here, so it's right here to kind of remind me when I first open it. Um, and the other thing I get lost on, and I don't know why, but it just doesn't stick in my brain, is her whole the philosopher, the wanderer. She's got all her suits are different. So she's got the philosopher, the goddess, the prophet, and the wanderer. So I went and took my stickers and put the king, queen, knight, and page, because I get lost in that very easily, and I forget. I have a hard time remembering this deck, and I'm not sure why that is, but I do. I have a hard time with it. I really like working with this deck during like the dark moon time, like during the new moon period. I love it. I dislike the glossiness. Like, they look like mirrors and they show every freaking fingerprint that is imaginable. But I really, really enjoy the messages from this deck. I find that it's very high vibration, very upper world energy that comes from it. Definitely a higher realm. I feel like it's very easy to connect into dark goddess energy with this, dark mother energy. It's very witchy. Uh, I like I like that it's pippish, like big time, because like to me pips just leave a lot of room for interpretation and you're not more of like that intuitive interpretation and it doesn't, kind of control your reading with an image. A lot of the images are very abstract in a way, which I really like. There's a lot of things about this deck that I really like, but when I'm shuffling it and I'm reading it, and then I'm like, crap, like what does the page, like what does the philosopher mean again? What does the wanderer mean again? And it's kind of, I don't know, it was kind of frustrating that way where I would spend a lot of time thinking. The other thing is I couldn't figure out, and it doesn't matter, it really honestly doesn't matter, is I couldn't figure out if I was reading reverses or uprights. Because a lot of the images, like, does it go that way or does it go this way? Right? And then I thought that there'd be some unity with like her putting the numbers up at the top, but some of the cards, the numbers are up at the top, and some of the cards, the numbers are down at the bottom. And like in this one here, you know that this one goes this way because the four sticks with the slash through it, 5 would follow first and then the 2, right? So you know that it doesn't go this way. You know that it goes this way. However, when it comes to these ones, like it's just 3 lines. Does the card go that way? Or does it go this way, right? So I would find myself getting lost in like those type of thoughts where I was like, is this card upside down? Is it reversed? Is it upright? Which one is this? Is this the page? Is this the queen? Is this the knight? And I would find myself in that trap with it. Um, and it would wreck my readings in a way because it would take me off course. So what I decided to do is I decided to get the guidebook, and I didn't even know that there was a separate guidebook available to it. And I was just kind of like shopping Indigo the one night, and this popped up, and I was like, oh, damn. Like, I didn't even know this was a thing. So I grabbed it, and it helps a lot. It's helped me connect better to this deck. It's helped me understand kind of where she was going, her thought process with it. Uh, I like a couple of the cute little spreads that she has in here. I like how she explains the goddess, the prophet, the wanderer, the philosopher, and kind of made that into a little bit more sense for me. The suit, she talks about it all. And I really, really appreciated that. And I'm really enjoying this book. And I'm glad it changed my entire experience with this deck. So now if I get lost and I'm like, oh crap, is this card, let me find one, if I can even find one. Probably not. Most of them are okay. Most of them are really straightforward. But there's a couple where you're like, is this reversed? Is this up? Is this down? Which way does it go? Like, well, that one not even, because you can look at the marks, right? Okay, this one, for example. Does it go this way? Or does it go this way, right? So now I know if it really starts bugging me, I can flip in the book, find the card, and she gives you the picture of the way it looks upright, and then you could be like, okay, this way's upright. So it just helps my my crazy mind understand this deck a little bit better and accept its direction a little bit better, and it works for me. So it's really, really helped my relationship with this deck and reading this deck, and I'm glad because I really like this deck. I don't know how people feel about it, but I personally really love this deck. Um, it kind of sits in the same space as the Dark Days Tarot for me, but I like this deck better than the Dark Days Tarot. The Dark Days Tarot is it is dancing on the edge of my purgatory box, to tell you the truth. And I don't like saying that because it's an indie deck and it's beautiful, but this fills that space for me, and I like the energy and the feeling and the readings that I get from this one better. So the Dark Days Tarot is kind of possibly going to be leaving my collection soon. I'm not sure. I haven't committed to it, but it's definitely been on my mind. So who knows? It might end up eventually, you know, making its way out my door because I turn to this for that. The only thing I will say about the Dark Days Tarot is that it has the black and white cards. So I tend to really like using it on full moons and new moons, where this one specifically is very much new moon, like the dark energy time for me. So that seems to be the only thing that's kind of saving the Dark Days Tarot, is that it very much encompasses the full moon and the new moon aspect. But we'll see what happens. I'm not saying I'm getting rid of it, but it's been a thought that has been kind of rolling around in my brain for a little bit because I don't want to have repeating energies. Like if this deck takes care of my moon work, why do I need another one, right? And like even the black violet tarot kind of sits in that same realm where it kind of has that full moon new moon energy, right? Because of its black and white palette. So it's kind of one of those things. I have kind of a repetitive energy in those three decks, I feel. So I haven't really quite decided what I'm going to do, but this one's definitely here to stay because I really do enjoy this one a lot, especially now that I have the book. So if any of you out there have this deck and you're having a hard time connecting with it, get yourself the guidebook. It's not that much. I believe I paid $20 for it, and it's made a world of difference. So something to consider if you're having a hard time connecting to the Wanderer's Tarot. Now, there's been so much stuff that's been going on January. I started my journey through Hecate's Cave, um, and it's going really well. I've been able to keep up with it daily, which is really good. I ran into a period where I couldn't commit to it properly right at the beginning for the first couple weeks. So I kind of just spent that time prepping my space, picking decks, doing different things that I was going to work with, different stuff like that, right? And then now that I've slowed right down, now I've gotten into it, and I've been the last 5 days every day into that book, into my tablet on my Kindle, reading everything, bookmarking things, starting my exercises, starting my journals. And it's been going really, really well. I had an amazing meditation today and quite an amazing experience. with all of that. I've got myself a nice, beautiful printed picture of Hecate that I just got off the internet and I printed and threw into an old, not being used frame. So I kind of have an image to help me connect with her. Uh, it's quite a different space now from my last video. I've added quite a few different crystals and different little elements to kind of add to the entire experience. I did stay with the indie deck, the Witch's Tarot, that I was going to not use it. And then I went to put it away, and we had a moment, me and that deck, and I was like, nope, this is the deck that I'm taking the journey with. I was actually going to switch it out for the Wanderer's Tarot, and I sat down. I I drew a few cards from the Wanderer's Tarot telling me what it was going to bring to the experience. I pulled a couple cards from the Witch's Tarot to tell me what it was going to bring to the experience, and the readings were astronomically different, and the Witch's Tarot took the win. It was very clearly the deck for that journey. So it stayed, it's there, I've been working with it, it's doing amazing and is doing a wonderful job connecting me in and having that communication with Hecate. And I stayed with the Outgrow Yourself Oracle, which is one of my favorite oracles, honestly. And I say it all the time. I use it as an oracle, not as a tarot. I do look at the Tarot Card Association titles on the card. I do take them into consideration, but at the end of the day, I'm very much about that little phrase that's up at the top, and I stick with that phrase. And I really, really am getting astounding messages, as always, as usual, with the Outgrow Yourself Tarot. It always just blows me away. So I'm having quite an experience between those two decks. And I have added in, I just did a video on it. You guys probably just saw it, but I did add in the avian tarot because I felt like it was important for me to have that animal energy. And so I moved this into the space. And so I've got the Outgrow Yourself, the Witch's Tarot, the Indie edition. And then I went with the Avian Tarot on the other side. So I can connect into the animal energy if I feel like there's certain days where maybe I want to do more of an avian connection, right? Because, animals, birds, all that stuff is very closely knit and in ties with Hecate. So this deck served very well. The deck is on my altar, so I can't even flip through it. But you guys just saw this. I just did a video on it, so I don't need to really waste any time on that. But it definitely made its way right up to my altar, so it's in that spot right now, and I'm working with it when I feel like I need a little bit of animal energy in this situation and on my journey. And it's doing wonderful too. Absolutely gorgeous readings. I'm really enjoying it. Now, the other deck that I have been working with off and on throughout all of January has been Witchcester Tarot, which I did a little bit of a talk about. We did a little bit of a visit on this deck. So I'm not going to go crazy with it. It's very popular right now. Everybody's really, really enjoying it and spending time with it. This deck to me is like when I'm feeling really low and I'm feeling in a bad spot and I'm just having a bad day and I don't know my way forward, or I just feeling trapped, a little bit of anxiety is coming forward, I just turn to it for guidance and for answers. And it's been a wonderful companion that way. I don't really put it into like your normal mundane everyday, like what's my day going to be like tomorrow. I don't do that with it. I I'm using it more for deeper guidance, more serious stuff. It's very comforting. I'm so happy it's part of my collection. It's been out on my desk. I keep turning to it and using it. I'll actually have like moments where I'll be like, "Oh, I need to pull, like, I need to work with the witch sister today. I need to pull some cards with the witch sister. I need to spend some time with it." Like, it actually pops into my mind throughout my day, um, like to go spend time with it, to go sit with it that evening. So it's definitely embedded in my mind, and I'm enjoying it. This lovers card, I think, is one of my most favorite ones out of all the decks that I have. It's There's just something about the chemistry between these two characters and the pole, and like that, like you can just feel it. It's amazing. Such a beautiful image. And I think we already passed them. No, we didn't. Okay, this sun card, it makes me feel so good. It makes me feel like everything's going to be okay. Like the sun's on your face, you're happy, everything's good, you're going to be fine. It makes me feel so much comfort and so much safety. There's just something about this image. It's astounding. I don't know. This deck is wonderful. I love it. And I know everybody likes to get on Llewellyn about their cardstock, but there's something about this cardstock. It takes me back to like my young days. It makes me feel like there's comfort in this stock, and I don't even know how to explain it to you guys, but there's like a hominess to it. It just The cardstock's simple. It's not elaborate. It's not fancy by no means, but it's just comfortable. It's comfortable in your hands. It's comfortable to shuffle. It slides nice. It feels like butter. I don't know. I enjoy Llewellyn's cardstock. There's just something about it. Like, these are working decks. Like, I'm not like, oh, I've got to be careful. I don't want to scratch it. I don't want to, chip the edges. Like, there's something about this cardstock that makes you just want to get in and do work with it. There's a comfort factor to this cardstock, and maybe it's just me, but it takes me back to my roots. This cardstock, there's something about it that connects me to my past, and it just brings a level of comfort that I can't even explain. And I know it's not just this deck, because it's my other Llewellyn decks too that have the same cardstock that just gives you that feeling. So, on the subject of comfy cozy, I've been working with my Green Witch Tarot. Now, I haven't logged a lot of hours on this. It kind of tends to get um, like pushed off. I don't necessarily agree with her meanings and her keywords in this book. The book is awesome. It's great. Don't get me wrong. Um, but the keywords kind of don't resonate with me. So, as usual, guidebook off to the side because I don't really use it. I never do. But this is one of those decks where it's got that same Llewellyn cardstock. It's comfy, it's cozy. It feels like you can just get down and do work with it, and it doesn't matter, right? And everybody knows this deck. Everybody's seen this deck. This is a very popular deck. It's been around a long time. Um, but it's easy. It's an easy read. It's straightforward. It's a Rider-Waite clone, pretty much. Yeah, like some of the words, like some of the majors are different in like their titles, but you still know what they are. I find like this is just a comfy, cozy, quick, easy, to the point read. I don't have to guess. I don't have to contemplate it. I don't have to think for freaking ever and be like, what does this mean? What is it saying to me? I know what it's saying to me. It's very clear. It's very clear. It's very precise. It's very to the point. And January had that feeling to it. Um, I wanted comfort. I wanted cozy. I wanted um, guidance. I wanted a little bit of structure, but not crazy amounts of structure, right? So to me, this was perfect and definitely filled that space for me. This Queen of Wands should have had a cat. There should have been a little black cat right here sitting at her feet. This whole entire deck has every animal that you can think of, but there is not a single cat in any of these images that I have found yet, which is very strange to me because you would think that there would be someone somewhere would have a cat in one of these pictures. We've got snakes and birds and dogs and fish and or salmon, if I want to be really specific. Everybody knows what this image is about. All kinds of different types of birds, wild boars, badgers, turtles. There's no cats, bees, falcons, everything. But there is not a single freaking cat in this entire deck. And if they were going to put it anywhere, it should have been on the Queen of Wands. So that kind of gets under my skin, which is ridiculous, but I'm a cat lover, right? And Queen of Wands is like my card. So I I'm like, where's my cat? There's not even a cat in this entire deck, but whatever, it is what it is. It's still a good read. It's still a comfy and cozy. It's like putting on an old pair of jeans. It's a great deck, and I really enjoy my readings from it a lot. And like I said, it's easy. It doesn't. It's very little effort. The messages are very precise and clear. It's cozy, but not like mushy cozy. Like I enjoy that about it. And like I said, once again, there's something about this Llewellyn cardstock to me takes me back and just gives this level of comfort. It's like it's not a hoity-toity fancy deck with gilding and cold stamping or things like that. Like it's just a deck that you can just get down and do some work with, and I don't know, I like it. I have no problems with Llewellyn cardstock. There she is. She's taunting me. And she's like, look at, there's no cat. There should be a cat right here. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, great deck. And I've been working with it off and on throughout January, and it's been great. I've really been enjoying my time with it. Um, So January's kind of been like more comfy, cozy decks, kind of dipping into that earthy, like that connection to earth, right? The other thing, back to the Green Witch Tarot, is right now it's looking pretty bleak and pretty stark outside. There's nothing happening. It's mucky, it's icy, it's cold. It's been overcast for like 2 weeks now. And this kind of like brings that warmth, that greenery, that Gaia energy in. And sometimes you just need to see it, right? You need to see trees with leaves on them, and you need to see green grass and water that's not frozen. So it's it's been nice to turn to some of these decks that have these beautiful, colorful images in them, right? Because it kind of pulls you out of that winter stump, right? The winter blues. So that's kind of where I've been working with January. That's kind of what I've been doing with my January. Didn't bring any crystals in. Haven't really done anything that way. I mean, I've been busy between working with my decks and then doing my journey with Hecate. There hasn't really been a lot going on, right? Because a lot of my other time has been spent doing my business stuff. So, it's kind of been a slow month for working with tarot, other than, like I said, every night I pull my cards. Sometimes throughout the day as situations arise, I turn to them as well too. But other than that, the digital tarot journal that I'm doing, I'm still putzing away at it. I haven't made leaps and bounds with it. It's been a very slow process. But when I get something substantial, I'll make another video about that and kind of show you guys what I did and where I went with that. So that's in the wings still. But anyways, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. Share, give me some comments. Let me know what you've worked with for January. Are you working with, darker decks still? Are you starting to kind of feel that like color, that pastel color palette, starting to look a little bit more of those florals and, that energy coming in for you? I've been battling it, so I'm very curious to see if anyone else is feeling that same pull. like I always say, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks. Bye.